Thank you much. Welcome back to another episode of Not Good Enough Anime, hosted by me, David. Thank you for being here. And in this episode, we'll be talking about why the hell are you here, teacher? And before we get into that, I want to take a brief moment and suggest you also listen to the main podcast co-hosted by Andy and myself called Not Good Enough. We recently added video to the mix, and it's a nice little workaround things from the usual podcast, just audio that we used to do. So I feel like it's a little bit fun. You can see my facial expressions, my big ass forehead, my ugly ass hair, and you can see Andy's Homer Simpson beer belly that he got going on. All right, now diving straight into this short and orgasm-inducing show. Actually, disclaimer before we start, I want to go ahead and say I do not read any manga. I have no idea about the source of this show, of this anime. I'm just exclusively speaking about it on a anime only, whatever the fuck you want to call it. All right. I don't read. I don't do that. I like pictures, but in color. All right. The only pictures I like are nudes. So keep that in mind. I will not refer to any manga. I will not refer to anything like a light novel. Nothing. I will speak exclusively about the show only and the way that it came on Verve. But all right, so let's go ahead and dive straight into it now, for real. I want to talk about what I expected going into watching this anime. Surprisingly, this wasn't on the list of anime with nudity that I have saved on my phone. But rather, it was something that I stumbled upon while scrolling through the Verve catalog, searching frantically for any dubbed anime with the mature logo attached to it. Reading the summary, I initially thought the show was a simple and straightforward take on the all too familiar porn story of student walks in on teachers doing some freaky shit. Then next thing you know, the principal's walking in on the student eating the teacher's ass while his dick is in his hand. Happens all the time, man. Relate to that one. Let's see. That in its own is an appealing and attention-grabbing story for any curious minds looking for some good old degeneracy, which is exactly what I was looking for. I pressed play, not expecting a deep and thought-provoking story like Full Metal Alchemist, just some great titties. Spoiler alert, I got exactly that. But as I'll point out later, the show gives an acceptable amount of backstory and emotion to the relationships, while not becoming anything that can be enjoyed effortlessly and horny. Now, the show follows a format that is fast paced and easy to consume. No doubt, thanks to its bite sized runtime of around 12 minutes per episode. It also does not have a traditional main character, opting for a male and corresponding female being the spotlight for a couple episodes each. Something that I both dislike and like about the show. It gives the show more variety as they can put the characters in much more awkward situations without diminishing the tension because they have four sets of characters instead of just one. It would have caused me to suspend my disbelief greatly if, after about 5 situations, one of the male characters was still shy about seeing his teacher naked. That issue is alleviated with the four character set decision. So instead of the me screaming, "It's the fourth time, suck them nipples," I instead go, shit, I'd be nervous too with them big ass titties. On the negative side, though, the show becomes somewhat repetitive, giving different characters similar situations to be in. So instead of seeing one couple evolve and become more and more comfortable with each other, I had to see 4 different dudes make the Scooby Doo surprise face. Why? Again, the show is not meant to be deep and thought provoking, so I find that acceptable for what the show is. Now, getting into the first set of characters, Ichiro and Kana. Although their journey takes a familiar start in a bathroom stall, akin to Mayochiki, the second half of episode 1 ends in a very outlandish yet interesting way, with Ichiro having to insert a suppository in Kana's backdoor hash door. A very promising and explicit start to an increasingly, and I stress that word heavily here, increasingly dirty show. Side note, I wish animes would put much more emphasis on the booty. Booty can change your life. Now, in their second episode, we get a tiny bit of backstory and emotional attachment for these two. Kana wants to find a man who's young, caring, and great with kids. A very easy search considering Ichiro is all of those and is standing right in front of her. She says she struggles with kids and can never seem to get them to like her, which is the only outstanding characteristic the audience gets from her. Besides the I'm a hard ass bitch that the show forgets, but they only occasionally throw it in every once in a while. Once they remember, hey, we kind of said that this lady's a hard ass bitch. So let's give her like 1 3 second dialogue of her being a hard ass bitch. It comes off half-assed, you know. Another half-assed attempt is the outrageously connective story that they put between Ichiro and Kana when they were younger. The only reason I don't shit on the show much more for that decision is because of the cute moment they share afterwards. But other than that, that's come on, that's half-assed right there. The last episode of their saga is supposed to give us closure, inferring that they will marry each other after school ends, potentially living happily ever after. Yes, the episode closes out the arc in a semi-satisfying way, but having already become attached to the characters, I couldn't help but wish for more of these two together. A futile attempt, as I knew even if I got more, I'd just be a sad boy with titties and no love. On the next set of student-teacher combo, we have Ren and Mayu. Right off the bat, we understand as a viewer that Ren is the typical misunderstood big guy who's actually just a big teddy bear. His intentions are pure and kind, which makes the naughty situations he's in with Big Titty Mayu much more entertaining. They establish a connection between them from prior years, but it immediately comes off more fleshed out than the previous couple. Although the way it's portrayed in the show, it doesn't feel like she falls for him just because of the good deed he did, but rather because he accidentally made her come. Rather quickly, by the way. They do this in every anime. No woman comes in 30 seconds. If they do, yo, hit me up. Send me an email after you listen to this. There's really not much going on after that, as they had only 2 episodes together until the next couple takes the spotlight, which is Takahashi and Hikari. I'm gonna butcher these names, so hang in there with me. They both have a different dynamic than the previous two couples. They've grown up together, but Hikari still sees Takahashi as her little brother and not somebody who will eat that pussy like Thanksgiving dinner. hmm These two propelled the show to borderline hentai, close enough to the line that it took me a whole year to finally recommend it to somebody, and only because I eased them into it. I personally wouldn't complain though, because Takahashi reminds me of myself in a way. Small and not take it too serious, but ready to latch on to some titty when the opportunity rises. Now, even though I can relate to him as a character, I simply cannot relate to the absolute out of pocketness they get into next. She tells him to pull her panties to the side, a phrase heard and loved all around the world, including myself, but she then proceeds to pee in a bucket that he is holding. I don't know about all that now. That's that freaky shit. Right after that moment, though, they get a tiny bit of death. She's worried if that was too much for him to handle, and he just wants to give her a moment as he recovers himself from all that. An issue that wasn't explored heavily outside of him making her come again, and possibly the most unbelievable scene in all of anime. It does end in her declaring he is hers with a determined look on her face, which I have to be honest makes me a little jealous. In terms of situations and shenanigans they get into, Takahashi and Hikari are my favorite of the bunch. Now onward to our last couple, Chizuru and Tonica. They have my favorite genuinely funny moments out of all 4 couples. They gave Chizuru a much different personality than the previous girls. She's cold and emotionless, where her face rarely changing expressions. A nice play off of Tonica's caring and worrisome personality. In their second interaction together, she comes over to his house. When he says he wants to get to know her, she plays Christmas videos of her as a child. A genuinely funny moment that made me laugh out loud and added to my desires of a wider scope. The arc takes a back seat on super crazy nudity and puts a little emphasis on how Tanaka is starting to fall for her. Due to the short length of the show, the audience couldn't see much of a development for Chizuru, and that's really my main problem with the show. I want more of everything, not just of the epic sexual moments like putting a suppository in your teacher's ass or drinking tea that spilled on your teacher's pussy. I also want more of the characters. As to why they made the episodes 20 minutes long each, I have no clue. But the creators have such a wide array of good characters that can be fleshed out amazingly. Yes, the show has to be one, if not the most degenerate anime I have watched ever. But for the amount of content and story they packed in each episode, the show can easily evolve into something much bigger than just 4 students getting with their teachers. I hope soon I can see more from this series because deep down it has more heart put into it than what I initially expected it to have. Yes, the situations they get into are highly improbable and require all 7 Dragon Balls to even achieve, but looking at them with a less critical eye and one hand around your dick, you really start to appreciate the art the artist has painted. At the end of the day, the best problem a show can have is that there isn't enough of it. I highly recommend the anime, but only to those that are already deep into the genre. Don't expect to be amazed by thought provoking writing or deep lore. This is an anime that shouldn't be taken too seriously, but enjoyed and consumed by people that love to see awkward and funny sexual situations. In terms of personal ratings, this show would have to be on a different scale than my last two anime shows due to its nature. It would be unfair to rate this along with anime that emphasize story and character development. So, with that in mind, Why the Hell Are You Here, Teacher gets a 7 out of 10, a degeneracy rating of 10 out of 10, while also nabbing a 10 out of 10 in nipple rating as well, largely in part due to the different set of nipples for each teacher and the nipple hardening animation, which is perfect. Well, thank you so much for hearing me ramble on, and I appreciate everyone listening. And don't forget to leave us any feedback on our website, notgoodenoughpodcast.weebly.com, or directly on the YouTube comments if you guys want to do that. Please and thank you. And remember, if it's not good enough, it'll probably never be good enough. You have a good day. Bye bye.